Before Ryde.
Thank you, Speaker. People in Ryde regularly tell me they think we work too often on a short horizon in this place. The next election, the next sitting week, the next announcement. They know it is the rhythm of politics and there is no point pretending otherwise. But every so often they expect us to think on a longer horizon, to think about the kind of society that we are building. It is easy to imagine in 20 or 30 years, looking back on this period of social media algorithms the way we now look back on the early years of car travel before seatbelts or doctors quoted on tobacco billboards. We will probably look back with embarrassment. We will wonder how we accepted an industry that designed its products to be addictive, profited from polarisation and distributed harm to children, vulnerable adults and democratic institutions while insisting they bore no real responsibility. I think that retrospective judgment is likely. I'm interested in whether we can avoid earning it. Several long-term trends concern me. The first is what happens to attention as a civic resource. Democracies require citizens and elected representatives who can sustain focus long enough to form considered judgments. Markets require participants who can read a contract, weigh a long-term trade-off, and resist short-term emotional appeals. Communities require members who can stay present long enough to know each other beyond performance. If the platforms most of us spend hours a day on are training us to fragment our attention, those civic, economic and social capabilities will weaken over time. The second is what happens to trust. Australians of my parents' generation grew up with high confidence in shared institutions. Police, courts, public broadcasters, electoral commissions, doctors, teachers and the public service enjoyed reasonable public faith. That confidence is no longer secure. Trust in journalism has declined sharply across most democracies. Trust in politicians has long been low, but the gap between the most and least trusted public figures is now extreme. Some of this is healthy scepticism. A meaningful share looks like cynicism manufactured in the same digital systems that distribute outrage and conspiracy. The third is what happens to loneliness. The platforms promised connection, and early on that seemed to be their purpose. However, we have long moved on from Meta and ByteDance being social media platforms. They're entertainment platforms, and they suck people in, feeding them a false reality that isolates them and gradually shifts their underlying worldview, all without needing to interact with another living soul. The evidence increasingly suggests platforms have delivered a particular kind of connection, one that is wider but thinner, more visible but less intimate, more performative but less reciprocal. Surveys in Australia and overseas indicate that loneliness, including among young people, has risen alongside the spread of social media. We can debate the causal relationship, but we cannot brush aside the correlation. The fourth is what is happening to childhood. Children growing up today will be the first generation in human history for whom unmediated experience is the exception, not the rule. Their friendships, their first conflicts, their boredom, and their boredom's resolution will all happen through devices designed by people whose primary obligations are not to these children. When adults with a lifetime of pre-technology experience are being changed by social media, addiction, outrage, and unreality, the consequences for children will be greater still. These four trends, attention, trust, loneliness, and childhood, are not separate problems. They are aspects of the same large question. What kind of society does Australia want to be in 20 years? I have a view. I would like us to be a society where citizens can read long things, sustain hard conversations, disagree respectfully, trust institutions to be fair, know their neighbours, and grow up with meaningful, unmediated experience. That is not nostalgic, it is forward-looking. It rests on individual responsibility, a strong civil society, and limited but capable government. To get there from here, we will need to do more than regulate. We will need to talk differently about what is normal. We will need parents willing to delay devices a little longer, schools that teach digital citizenship as seriously as literacy and numeracy, workplaces that respect the cognitive cost of constant interruption, and a media ecosystem that prizes accuracy more than reach. And we will need elected representatives willing to model better habits, not just demand them. The forces aligned against a more deliberate and connected society are some of the most powerful commercial actors in human history. But the absence of an easy answer is not the absence of an answer. It simply means we will need to work at it. The constituents that I represent in Ryde know this and are asking quietly and consistently for a better society, We owe them and the generations coming after them the effort to build it.
Thank you.